for as long as Kiriko has been out in Overwatch 2, she has been almost always the de facto support and the best support in the entire game. Is there any way that Kiriko can be changed to make her not so overbearing? Because, as we know, her kit is a little good. Some would say overloaded. I don't know if I would necessarily go that far, but she is very effective at too many things, and the downsides of it are just not there. So basically, this is a mini unfixable. This is a series where I try and give rework ideas. The mini version of it means that I think Kiriko is pretty fine. In fact, in my personal opinion, there's not too much that I would necessarily change with her. I think most of her abilities are in a spot where they could be changed in a good, healthy way, rather than having to replace anything in her kit. Now, she is going to lose a little bit of her options, but I also want to open up more options for her, right? Another priority here is that Kiriko is a really hard balance factor, because she's really hard to get effectiveness out of the lower ranks, but at the higher ranks, she is basically too good. And that is just kind of part of Kiriko's identity problem, right? She is such a high skill character, and that is a very, very good thing, don't get me wrong. But the fact that she is so bad at lower ranks is that the more that you nerf her, the more that she becomes even worse at lower ranks and just more of a throw pick. And they really don't want that, you know? I think there's a lot of inherent value that Kiriko gets with the easier stuff in her kit, like Suzu. And those are the things that also make her good at high ranks. And I think that's really the hard part, right? Is that if you nerf her inherent value, like those things that she can get, then you even nerf her further from for lower rank people. And it's a weird balance. So basically what this rework is trying to do is keep that skill ceiling, keep the hard factor of Kiriko. I want her to be a hard character, but maybe try to level out the field about how you learn her. So keep her skill ceiling as high as possible, and ideally as much as it is now, but also lower the skill floor and kind of even out the skill curve, right? So it's not like you have to start up here and then it's a steep learning curve. It's more of like you can start down here and gradually learn the character and master certain parts at a time, if that makes sense. So we'll go ahead. Kunai, Healing of Fuda, they're fine. Her passive, also fine, right? I'm just going to go ahead. We'll keep the high burst damage. It's very skillful to hit them. I think the Healing of Fuda, it's good single target, but it's not overbearing. I don't think it is particularly that good. It's really more good combined with Suzu and all of that. So I think that I'm going to keep her primary and secondary fires, also just like being able to wall climb and everything. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's going to be fine. We are going to start, however, with the ability that is going to be changing the most. That is going to be TP. So TP is going to still exist, right? But it is not going to function how it does on live. So currently it's a long range ability, right? And since it can go through walls and you can mix it with her passive and her wall climb, that she has the option to survive forever, right? TP enables Kiriko to go extremely deep and take very, what should be risky flanks and duels without the risk, right? And that is a bit of a problem because she becomes a better duelist than like most of the DPS in the category. You've been watching me just like play with this Tracer the entire time, right? And just be completely safe and make sure that she does not get through to the backline. That is really, really, I think it's fun that you can duel on Kiri, but it is so easy to be completely risk-free, basically, that I think that is a bit of a problem. So what I want to do, or also another thing that I want to add, is that as a Kiriko player, being limited to your teammates' positions for TP honestly is a little frustrating to me, because it's like, well, all my options to escape aren't great because my team are in bad spots, or it's like, I want to be able to get where I'm going, but I have to rely on a teammate. And it's not like Mercy where she can kind of course correct. Kiriko kind of just has to go in. TPing into danger to save your teammates is really not that, I mean, like, it's really hard to avoid sometimes if you really do need to help them. So a lot of times you're just kind of risking it and just praying that you're not going to die. And that's a bit of frustration. So with my proposed solution here, I'm going to go ahead and take a page out of SK's book. If you did if you played any of the creator patch, you'll know what SK did was that she made it so that Kiriko could just TP on her own, right? She didn't have to do anything. She just went a set distance, and that is what TP was. It could still go through walls and everything. That was fun to mess around with, but I want to expand it a little more. So what I'm going to have it be is that you have to channel it to go a certain distance, right? So TP, a short TP, you would just hit the button and you're basically only going to be able to get through like a wall. Like you're going to go like a couple meters, if that, right? But that's going to be your fast option for escape. If you channel it and hold it, and it's going to take much longer for the cast time to work than it would on live, that is when you can go basically as far as you currently can on live, right? So the longer range, what's it called? Safer TPs, you know, like the ones that will get her completely out of danger, take a lot more time to activate. So it's much riskier to go for a backline flank because you have to take like a good second out of your time to actually TP. And in that time, you're not able to throw Suzu or fight back or anything. You're a sitting duck. And if you're in a duel, it's very easy for somebody else to completely take advantage of you and make sure you die. So basically, Kiriko's duel potential and hyper flank potential is limited. And now she has to weigh the risk versus reward of like, is it worth it for me to go on this deeper angle? Because if I don't win the duel, there's a much higher likelihood that I will die, right? Or should I just go on a softer angle, have some of that pressure, and then TP away, and that's going to be much easier and much more reliable, right? Those are kind of the decisions you have to make. Also, what this allows is, since it's not connected to a teammate, you can just kind of go wherever you want. Now you can make little micro decisions about where you are actually going to go. So let's say my Reinhardt is LOSing me super far. Instead of having to TP directly onto him and pray that I'm not going to get like in the fight or I'm not get killed during the fight, instead I can TP around, like kind of like to the corner that he's at, and then help him from there and not necessarily have to put myself in the danger. And then that also opens up skill about like, how far do I go, right? I have to know internally, like, how far my TP is going to go. And then that's just, like, more of a skill curve to this character. So, basically, this will make TP much less viable. It's going to soften it out a little bit. I don't think this necessarily makes it so much worse, but it's going to limit her dual potential. And I think that makes Kiriko much worse, right? But it gives Kiriko much more options and should allow for better playmaking potential. So I think overall this is a nerf because at the end of the day, it's her dueling potential that really makes TP such a good ability. But it's still not making her super, super bad, right? That is TP, right? It opens up a lot of her options. So with that being said, that is the most changes I've made to an ability. That is the most fundamental differences. For Suzu, I think this one is pretty cut and dry. I've talked about this multiple times. I've made a TikTok about it. I have talked about it in my one change for every character video. I do legitimately think that Kiriko Suzu should only cleanse and invuln on direct hit. And the reason that I would want this is that, yes, it does actually increase Kiriko's skill ceiling because she has to hit a skill shot to get the invuln and the cleanse. It also prevents Kiriko from just denying those multi-target abilities like that for free, because it is pretty easy just to hit the splash damage and completely reverse an anti-nade or a dynamite or a rampage or something like that. This, now she has to choose who she wants to give the cleanse to, right? She can't just give it to everybody. She has to be like, okay, maybe I have to hit my tank and they're the one that's going to need it the most. Maybe in the position that they're at, my DPS is going to need it, and that's going to be a harder shot, but if you get it out, the reward is crazy, right? I think that makes the character's value inherently go down. You know, like, it's much harder to get value out of this ability, at least the highest value, to compensate. If you wanted to make it do a little more healing regularly, I think that's perfectly fine. But if it can't cleanse all the time, then it's not necessarily going to be that good, right? That's something just to, like, kind of watch out. You know, you don't want to make it too overbearing or too swayed on the part where, like, it's too good if you hit the direct hit. But there's one crucial thing here that also makes Kiriko much worse in the duel, is that she can't cleanse herself. So Kiri now has much higher risk about when she is off by herself. Now, she can heal herself, don't get me wrong, but it is still higher risk when you're at duels, and using Suzu selfishly is not nearly as good. So combine those two, Kiriko's survivability goes down, but she still has a bunch of options, and she still has that high playmaking potential. With Suzu, she's just not nearly as good as she has been, right? It keeps the it introduces new dynamics while keeping a lot of that skill ceiling with both of those abilities. In fact, I think TP's skill ceiling goes up with the way that it's implemented, right? So not only do you have to be mechanically skilled, you also have to be positionally aware. Okay, that is TP and Suzu. I do think that those combined, my last change for her ult is really not that much. I do think that those combined drastically change her playstyle, at least moment to moment, and really make Kiriko think about what she is doing at all times, right? Every Suzu has to be calculated. Every TP has to be calculated. You know, there's no get out of jail free necessarily, at least not to the same extent. And then my final change is just a Kitsune. Kitsune is de facto best support ult in the game. There is no contesting that. It does everything. You cannot fight in a Kitsune. You have to run away from it unless you have one of your own, and then it is just kind of a shit show, to be honest with you. So basically what I've done is, I kind of didn't want to do this, but I think after so long of it being such a good ability, it kind of has to be done. Remove the cooldown reduction. I think that makes it so overbearing. I think you have to lean into the fire rate and reload speed. I think that is, unfortunately, like, the cooldown reduction is really interesting, but it is what makes the ult so overbearing that nobody can even contest with it at all, right? So if you get rid of the cooldown reduction, maybe you increase a little bit of the of the fire rate speed, just so it isn't completely worthless. That makes Kiriko ult not nearly as good. Every, sustain, DPS, all that should be going down because you're not using your abilities nearly as much, but it doesn't completely eliminate the idea of it, right? Again, I think the cooldown reduction is neat. I think it's interesting, but after nearly 2 years of it being, again, the best support ult in the game, you literally cannot contest this ult. I think it probably has to go away, right? But with that being said, Kiriko can probably use it a lot more selfishly. She can, she doesn't have to feel like she has to use it for the whole team. I think it can be used in more ways since it's not as good at doing one particular thing with her team. Since it is just like that, you can just make it so she can use it for herself. She can try to give it to an ally instead, one that would benefit more than she would at that current moment. Who knows? That's a little up in the air, but yeah, that's kind of it. I don't think Kiriko needs that drastic of changes. Again, I think her kit is fun. It is high skilled. That is what we want. It is just she is very good at the things that a support probably shouldn't be nearly as good at as she is. It's okay to be proficient in some of those areas like DPS and all of that, but to be proficient in that, like very proficient in that and also proficient in sustain and all of the extra things that a support would want, that's where the problems start to lie, right? So if we can rein her in a little bit while keeping what we like about Kiriko, that is I think is going to make this character much more respected. And I think a lot of people will be like, oh, I really like Kiri now, and I like fighting against Kiri because her weaknesses are much more defined, and you can counterplay around them a lot better. So that is going to do it for this one. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think I am the dumbest person on the planet, or do you think I am a literal genius, or anything in between? Let me know. While you're at it, like and subscribe. I do really appreciate it. At the end of the day, there's plenty more rework ideas on my channel. If you have your own rework idea, you can join my Discord that's in the description below, as well as if you want to give me a hot take, talk general Overwatch stuff, always possible. And also, this will stream live at twitch.tv/Lane Hemingway, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Always trying to have a discussion, something to talk to me about. But just stop by. I'd love to have you guys in. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day.